Hey guys, welcome back, it's Meg. Today we are going to be running a 25 Tyrannical Plaguefall. You can find my stat weights in the top left, my legendary and unity in the top right, and my talent choices and trinkets in the bottom right. This was the first high Tyran key that I'd stepped into this week, so I actually went ahead and swapped to Tear of Mourning. I thought that this would help with the first and the last boss. Ultimately ended up being overkill, so I would still recommend that you run Ancient Teachings as well as your unity. But this was just kind of a little science experiment and I wanted to play it more safe than normal. I was having some problems with my internet during this key as well, so I had a little bit more ping than I normally do. It really shows up on the last boss, and there's a couple of missed globals here throughout the rest of the key, but in case you saw something you're like, oh, that looks kind of funny, it's most likely because of my latency. Popping Fall in here just so I can spend a majority of my time DPSing. It is Sanguine, so we are going to be pulling these back towards our range. We have quite a bit of ad control here between ROP as well as we have many grips. We have mass grip and then single grip, so we're just going to go ahead and make a line of slimes there while we funnel into her. I wanted to stop this pat, so I went ahead and rang and then parried the lead of the pack. We went ahead and pulled in the Spinebreaker, and then we're gonna get our tank knockback here, and he's gonna pull the 2 Plague Borers. The Slime will pull, we're gonna go ahead and banish that because we want it for the first boss. Plaguefall thankfully has very easy trash, especially when it is a Tyrannical week, so there isn't really a whole lot that we're gonna have to send cooldowns on. In terms of healing cooldowns, I'll be sending, Fallen Order as frequently as I can without not having it somewhere that I'll need it. But generally, this is just going to be a spend to win dungeon. You'll have to do a little bit of tank healing if you don't have certain dispels. And outside of that, it's pretty much just the first and the last boss that you really need to be worried about. Right here, Rev got a little ambitious and soaked too many slimes and ended up dying there, so he's gonna run back because we don't want to use the V-Res. Couple things on this boss, we do have a lot of stops and CCs for the big slime, so we don't have to worry about those too much. We have Trap, Banish, as well as my Para. But something to be aware of is we forgot to Lust until like halfway through the fight, so it went a little bit longer than it probably should have, but it's fine. Mistweavers are kind of built for this boss, built for this fight and this amount of HPS. Honestly, during Fallen Order, I don't dispel unless someone is standing in the pool and it's like a hunter or something that doesn't have a whole lot of defensives. Usually the way that this goes is Fallen Order, Crane, Fallen Order, Revival. Sometimes if you have, certain things happening, it might go a little bit differently. We haven't lusted quite yet, and boss is almost at 50%. Crane is going to be putting in some work here, and I was just making sure that during our herb buff I was getting out as many renewings as I could. I am running tier like I'd mentioned earlier, so I am going to try to take advantage of the Vivify Cleave that we get from that. Just this last little bit of Crane is going to be finishing up, and I will be dispelling people because we are still going to be using our puddle. Fallen Order's got about 45 seconds left on it, and Revival is up, so the next one is going to be Revival. There is our Lust. Meant to do that at the beginning, but everyone kind of forgot and no one said anything. Rev had said that he was going to Blur or Netherwalk there, and I think he ended up getting stuck on a global is what he said. Otherwise we would have spent the time to top him. I do miss my Ancient Teachings maintenance healing a little bit. I don't like having to stand and cast Vivify to top someone if it's just one person missing health, so like I had mentioned, I think I would still recommend running Ancient Teachings here. And we have Fallen Order for our last stomp. We will have one more after this, and we were just going to heal through that normally. This boss hasn't changed a whole lot from Season 1. The one downside is that we have to be a little bit more cautious of dispels. We have to be spending our Renewing Mists a little bit more appropriately. So it's a little bit more maintenance and a little bit more prep rather than just pushing Fallen Order for every 30 seconds, but I think the fight became much more enjoyable in Season 3 than in Season 2. I didn't have any cooldowns for this pack, and I didn't really need them. If Fallen Order was up, I probably would have sent it, but I wouldn't bother sending Crane here. I would save that for the slimes for sure. The slimes aren't difficult if you have multiple dispels or if people are stepping out of melee or if things are being stopped, but that disease, even if it's not fortified, it actually can chuck pretty hard. So it's just something to be aware of, that you will probably want to send a cooldown there. Revival's good if you have that and people aren't using stops, or you can just do individual stops, dispel as you go, and send Fallen Order instead. Because we're in comms, we had decided on whether or not we were going to be stepping out, if we were going to be dispelling or stunning. So I went ahead and just sent Crane here just to get it on cooldown. Don't really need it anywhere else. I guess you could send it on the next pack that we're going to pull, but again, I'll have Fallen Order and Revival for that. So again, not like super concerned about it. It is still Tyrannical week. sent Fawn here just to help with some of the maintenance healing. I definitely felt Ancient Teachings missing. Having to stop and vivify every single time someone needed topped was really annoying, and it affected my overall DPS for sure. So I used this here just so I could allow myself more time to spin and do damage, but normally I probably would have just held on to it. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what killed Rev here. That wretched phlegm from the Plague Boar said it went off, but I think that he ended up actually dying before that. He wasn't getting meleeed, so the only debuff that he had on him was the Concentrated Plague, which is the slime pool that we're in, so he's gonna go ahead and run back because this is a gauntlet situation, but we actually have no idea what happened there. I went ahead and used Kreen here just because I didn't have Fallen and I didn't really want to use Revival. So I'm going to go ahead and use that one, and then by the time that we get to the boss, I should have every cooldown back that I need. Around right here is where you're going to be starting to think about saving your Todd for one of the bombs. Usually I end up using it on the third because we are lusting the second, and then we don't have anything for the last one. So that's usually where I end up using it. If you want to, you can also use Fort Brew to kind of get like a bigger Todd, but it all really just depends on your DPS and if they are focusing it or where you guys are putting your lust. So this is a situation where sending Fallen Order on pull is fine because you have the AoE going out from your relics that are with the boss. You also have to deal with the red slime. So what you're going to do during Fallen is you're going to be DPSing, obviously, and then you're also going to be trying to get your Renewing Mists out as much as you can. And then that is just going to do a majority of your maintenance healing. So right here, Prue gets hit by the X formation and goes into Seed, and then Yoda gets hit by the second one, so we're just gonna go ahead and B-res them. This boss, that will one-shot you, so you want to make sure that you're dodging it. I honestly usually just leave melee entirely. If you're like really hurting for damage, you can go ahead and try and play the game where you find the corners, but most of the time I usually just leave melee to be safe. I mentioned earlier that we usually lost the second bomb. We had a misunderstanding and we had lusted the second platform instead. So we went ahead and held the cooldowns and just had less carries through, and then we will cooldown and Todd the next bomb that we get. This boss is really not demanding for healers, it is mainly just a DPS check, so you want to make sure that you're just kind of staying on the bombs the entire time. We do have a little issue here where Rev got jumped on when he was in the air because he got knocked back. The boss evade bugs for a little bit, but thankfully it doesn't reset. We were very worried that we were going to have to redo this entire boss. So he'll snap down here, right there, and then he's going to evade for a couple of seconds, but it ends up working out. He just kind of fixes himself when he spell cues his slime injection, and we're just going to go ahead and kill the boss here. All of the slimes from the previous platforms have been banished or trapped, so our management on those is taken care of. We went ahead and pulled the side pack with the relics first just to spawn our and then we're going to pull that into the tentacle just so we can get some benefit out of that without having to worry about someone getting grabbed by the tentacle, as well as getting force slammed at the same time from I went ahead and used Fallen Order here just because we were dealing with some of the relic healing, as well as I don't really need it anywhere else. It's not fortified, so it's kind of just send it wherever you want as long as you have it for the bosses. It's not a huge deal on whether or not you send it, it's just a little bit less work for me to do because I am running tier, so I'm not getting the maintenance healing from Ancient Teachings like I normally would. So you can't stun this tentacle, but you can use either Freedom, Tiger's Lust, or an immunity to get out of it, so I just went ahead and Tiger's Lusted myself there because it actually does a significant amount of damage even if it isn't fortified. This next boss doesn't have a whole lot of healing that needs to be done, so you can go ahead and pop Fallen here. You can use Crane on the next one if you'd like, but generally, as long as you have Renewing Mists out and you focus the one person that gets the fixate, or the ambush rather, they're gonna be just fine. You don't really have to worry about it. Again, the first and the last boss are the real challenges in Plaguefall. I'm going to use Fallen Order here just so I can do some spinning, get a little bit of damage out. Again, not a whole lot happening, but it is just a little bit for the deconstruct as well as gathering up those adds. There's a little bit of damage left over, and then we also have a couple of other things going out like the ambush and the force slam, but generally this was kind of a wasted use, but I wasn't going to need it anywhere else, so not really much issue there. Not enough damage on this boss for healing cooldowns to really matter so much. I went ahead and sent Crane here just because we're going to be going downstairs and there's not really a whole lot of healing to do there either, because you're spending most of your time kiting those ads and then you're going to be pulling these slimes into the boss, and then by then Crane will be up. It feels bad to keep repeating the same thing, but there's really not a lot of healing in this dungeon as a whole outside of the first and the last boss. I am dropping Fallen Order here to take care of the Relic AoE as well as any random melees that may be coming out. I know the DPS get impatient here and they like to try and do big AoE before the tank gets struck, so they might get smacked around a little bit. Also, just in case they are taking a bath in the Sanguine, Fallen Order will cover that while I can continue to DPS. I was sent to take a field trip and go grab the slimes and start bringing them down. I do use Para here. I also use Fort Brew, just because it is Tyrannical doesn't mean that these don't hit pretty hard. You want to make sure that you're getting out of there before they start meleeing you and before they start getting casts off. I do mess up my Dora shadows here. I got a little bit afraid. I thought that it was gonna go off, so this is where I pop Fort Brew just to avoid dying, because I thought that it was going to kill me. So you can see I already have my renewing spread. I'm gonna go ahead and hit Fallen Order. We got a really good spawn on our Stradama ad, so we can go ahead and stay in this red puddle. We're gonna get really good value out of Fallen Order here, and then the DPS are just kind of gonna blast off. We do have to watch out for that Force Slam as well as the Tank Soak, so I just step out of melee a little bit, throw a couple of Vivifies, keep renewing your renewing mists. Fallen Order is about to drop off. It's not really worth the global to dispel anyone at this point, because you have the Erd debuff, as well as all of your mists out, and then you can kind of just Vivify Cleave up as you need. We still have all of our hots out, and then we have Essence Font going out right here. I have Crane and Revival available, as well as Cocoon, but because we're only going to get 2 stacks of Rain here, we're just going to Vivify Cleave everyone up. This is where I thought the Tear of Mourning would have more value, and if you were maybe in a group that didn't have quite as much damage, or if you had a different comp where you were going to get 2 Rains every time, then maybe Tear would be worth it. But in this group, in this situation, running Ancient Teachings, I do miss it, and I think that Tear was a bit overkill. This is our lesson. I'm just going to build a couple of stacks before I Essence Font, pop Chi-Ji, and then spend those Blackout Kick stacks to get a 3 stack, pop Enveloping Mist so we get the Enveloping Breath out, and everything at this point is pretty much just going to be Hots and Gusts of Mist. I pop Fort Brew just because it does take a little bit of building and spending for Chi-Ji to work really well. I will also be dispelling someone, so it's not that big of a deal if I step out of the pool, so I can keep myself healthy while I am giving other people attention. This last phase is where I start to have latency issues that I mentioned earlier. I pop Fallen here, gonna be spreading the Renewing Mist as well, and then just Vivify Cleaving to help my clones. I will be dispelling someone as well, and then I also still have Cocoon available. When you're using Revival to dispel all 4 stacks, you just need to keep people healthy enough to take at least 1 or 2 ticks of that 4 stack while you're waiting for it to stack up so you get a full clear, but that is just a minor cooldown for yourself and maybe one other person. So this is where it gets weird. Yoda ends up dying to this Tentacle Slam, and then I also died a Tentacle Slam somehow. It ended up just being a latency thing. I really was not expecting to die there. I thought that I got meleeed by an ad. So I unfortunately lost all of the cooldowns I had running. I don't have any defensives left, so I do end up dying to this Rain as well. I hate blaming lag on things, but that was kind of bullshit if we're being honest. I was as safe as I possibly could have been. Doesn't really matter, it was the end of the fight, so we go ahead and just wrap it up there. A little bit messy towards the end, but overall I'm happy with the run. Again, I would run Ancient Teachings over Tier, but other than that, I hope that this was helpful. I will see you guys in the next video, and thank you for watching.